Welcome to the first Virtual Public Information Center for the Baden Trunk Sanitary Sewer Class Environmental Assessment. This study has been initiated by the Township of Wilmot. MTE Consultants has been retained by the Township to serve as the lead consultant on the project. This Public Information Center will be published virtually and will remain online. The goals of our first Public Information Center are to introduce the objective of the study by defining the problem opportunity statement, outline the class environmental assessment process, identify the study area and the lands to be serviced, present existing sanitary conditions, point out the possible sanitary sewer trunk alignments, state the next steps in the study process, define the criteria used for evaluating the alternatives, confirm the preferred evaluation method, and to provide the general public, Indigenous groups, and stakeholders with an opportunity to review, provide comments, and submit questions. The problem opportunity statement for the Baden Trunk Sanitary Sewer states that the existing sanitary infrastructure lacks capacity and depth for the planned growth within the settlement of Baden. The proposed sanitary trunk will accommodate current and future growth in the area. The study will determine the corridor servicing alignment, size, and depth of the trunk sewer to facilitate growth and optimize existing township infrastructure in the area. The Township of Wilmot is responsible for the long-term operation and maintenance of the wastewater collection system for the settlement of Baden. In 2014, a wastewater servicing study for the growth areas of Baden and New Hamburg was prepared for the Township of Wilmot. The study evaluated the sanitary infrastructure needs presented in the 2011 Baden-New Hamburg Water and Wastewater Master Plan and evaluated the development options of these new growth areas. The additional expected growth identified in the updated 2019 official plan for the Township of Wilmot has prompted an overall review of the servicing strategy for the entire Baden-New Hamburg area. The Township has entered into a Schedule B Municipal Class Environmental Assessment for the Baden Trunk Sanitary Sewer. The notice of commencement was issued on June 17, 2021. This is the first public information center for the Baden Trunk Sanitary Sewer Environmental Assessment. We look forward to your comments and participation. An environmental assessment is a process used to identify potential environmental impacts and avoid them where possible. The benefits of the environmental assessment process include incorporating environmental factors into the decision-making process, minimizing or avoiding adverse environmental effects before the project is initiated, providing an opportunity for meaningful public and stakeholder participation, and providing comprehensive decision-making that considers a range of factors. We are undertaking an environmental assessment for the Baden Trunk Sanitary Sewer to identify and evaluate a range of potential sanitary sewer trunk alignments that satisfy the needs of the growing settlement of Baden. It will be accomplished by following a Schedule B framework outlined in the Municipal Engineer's Class Environmental Assessment Manual, performing and reviewing technical studies to minimize impacts, and by having meaningful engagements with the public and stakeholders. The Municipal Class Environmental Assessment is a process that provides a decision-making framework enabling the requirements of the Environmental Assessment Act to be met in an effective and efficient manner. Broadly defined, environment includes the natural, social, cultural, built, and economic environments. It applies to the municipal infrastructure projects, including roads, water, and wastewater projects. Schedule B projects refer to the magnitude of anticipated environmental impacts and are subject to the prescribed screening criteria as outlined in the Municipal Class Environmental Assessment Manual. It provides for comprehensive decision-making that considers a range of factors. A critical part of the process is consulting with all those who may be affected and the relevant review agencies. A project team was put together to best identify possible environmental impacts. Each team member will perform a detailed study in the area of their expertise. These studies will be used to assess each alternative in order to identify which one best satisfies the problem-opportunity statement. There are 3 key phases to a Schedule B class environmental assessment. Phase 1 begins with the notice of commencement, where problems or deficiencies, as well as opportunities, are addressed and formalized into a problem-opportunity statement. The process in Phase 2 helps to determine which schedule to use. For this study, the first step is to identify alternative alignments. This is performed by gathering background data on the natural, social, and economic environments, documenting existing conditions, and identifying constraints. The second step evaluates the alternative alignments. Once the project teams have completed their detailed studies, their assessments become the basis for evaluating each alternative alignment in the form of an evaluation matrix. Consulting with the review agencies and the public to solicit comment and input is key. The final step of Phase 2 will be to select the preferred alignment identified from the matrix and taking into consideration the input and comments received from the review agencies and the public. The final phase of Schedule B Class EA process will be to finalize the design of the preferred alignment and submit a notice of completion. Throughout the environmental assessment process, the public and stakeholders have an opportunity to actively engage and participate in the decisions affecting their community. Currently, we are at the beginning stage of Phase 2. This study is located within the settlement of Baden. It takes into consideration the future development of Baden as prescribed by the Provincial Policy Statement of 2020, the Places to Grow Plan of 2020, the amended Regional Official Plan of 2015, and the Township of Wilmot Official Plan of 2019. The urban areas, as seen in gold, are the primary focus for current population and employment growth. Lands located outside the urban areas are deemed countryside. However, the countryside line, as seen in silver, represents the future expansion to the Baden urban area boundary to accommodate for future growth. The proposed Baden Trunk Sanitary Sewer will service the areas east of Nafzinger Road within the countryside line. Aside from the first alternative, the Baden Trunk alignment alternatives will begin and end within the boundaries of the detailed study area. The alternatives located within the detailed study area will begin at the intersection of Snyder's Road West and Christian Street, and ultimately connect to the Baden Wastewater Pumping Station, adjacent to Foundry Street, just south of Gingrich Road. The existing Baden sanitary sewer network is comprised of gravity sewers, pressure sewers, and trunk sewers. There are 2 wastewater pumping stations. The Baden West Wastewater Pumping Station is located on Charlotta Street, while the Baden Wastewater Pumping Station is located adjacent to Foundry Street, just south of Gingrich Road. The wastewater servicing study of 2014 identified that the existing sanitary sewer did not have the capacity to support future growth. It also identified that under existing conditions in 2012, the sanitary sewer and the Baden wastewater pumping station on Foundry Street were over capacity with respect to peak flows. Five sanitary conveyance alignments, including a do-nothing alternative, have been identified as possible alignments for the Baden Trunk sanitary sewer. Each alternative has its own unique set of impacts. Aside from the do-nothing alternative, the 4 remaining alternative alignments completely lie within the detailed study area. Alternative 1 is the do-nothing alternative. It examines what may happen if no alternative is selected. In this case, if none of the alternatives are selected, then the current wastewater servicing strategy of 2014 will be carried out. This alignment begins at the northeastern urban boundary of Baden, runs southwest along the railroad, and down Foundry Street to the Baden wastewater pumping station. This alternative would require constructing a pumping station, constructing a pressure sewer along the eastern urban boundary, crossing a railroad, upgrading existing sewer, and integrating it along the regional road. Alternative 2 predominantly lies within the existing right-of-way of Snyder's Road West and Foundry Street. This alternative would require reconstructing large portions of existing road infrastructure, crossing a railroad, upgrading existing sewers, as well as upgrading and integrating sewers along a regional road. Alternative 3 lies within the existing right-of-ways of Christian Street, Charlotta Street, Mill Street, Charles Street, and Foundry Street. This alternative would require reconstructing large portions of existing road infrastructure, crossing a railroad, upgrading existing sewers, as well as upgrading and integrating sewers along a regional road. Alternative 4 predominantly lies within the existing right-of-ways of Christian Street, Charlotta Street, Queen Street, and Foundry Street. This alternative would require reconstructing existing road infrastructure, crossing a railroad, multiple stream crossings, constructing new sewers, upgrading existing sewers, as well as upgrading and integrating sewers along a regional road. Alternative 5 affects the existing right-of-way of Christian Street and Foundry Street. This alternative would require reconstructing existing road infrastructure, crossing a railroad, a stream crossing, constructing new sewers, upgrading existing sewers, as well as upgrading and integrating sewers along a regional road. The next step of the environmental assessment process is to evaluate the alternatives based on the following criteria. Each alignment will undergo a numerical evaluation. The numerical evaluation approach was selected as the preferred scoring methodology. This methodology requires a must-10 scoring assessment of the alternatives in a matrix form. Comments justifying the scoring will be included for each alternative. For each factor, the least preferred alternative receives a score of 1, and the most preferred factor receives a score of 10. All scores will fall between these two values. The relative score of the alternatives between the high and the low will be justified in the commentary utilizing the professional judgment of the project team and the reviewing agencies. The recommended alignment will then be identified based on the highest score. Thank you for participating in the Baden Trunk Sanitary Sewer Class EA Online Public Information Center. Any comments, questions, or suggestions relevant to this study should be directed to either Jeff Mullen-Hughes with the Township of Wilmot or to Dot Roga with MTE Consultants. This Public Information Center is relying on web-based communications. Please feel free to fill out the comment sheet located on this website. Any comments received will be collected under the Environmental Assessment Act and, with the exception of personal information, will become part of the public record. We look forward to hearing from you.